His life seemed calm and predictable, a hometown he knew by heart, a family-run business, and a fiancée his parents adored. Everything was going according to plan, until it became clear that one of them was building a future, while the other was preparing for a double life. Two words, spoken just 2 weeks before the wedding, brought it all crashing down: trust, plans, illusions. And it wasn't betrayal in the usual sense. It was a proposal so chilling, it erased the very meaning of loyalty. Sometimes to save yourself, you have to lose everything, especially when that everything turns out to be nothing like what you thought. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watched this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. I'm 28 years old and run a small hardware shop in the town where I grew up. Up until recently, I thought my life was pretty straightforward. As the youngest of several siblings, most of whom now have families of their own, I always tried to be the responsible one, helping my parents, holding down a steady job, and staying far away from unnecessary drama. But everything unraveled so badly lately that I feel like I have no choice but to tell the full story. I had been engaged for about a year to my fiancée, a 26-year-old woman. We first crossed paths at a bar through some friends we both knew. She had this magnetic energy, was incredibly easy to talk to, and from the very beginning, it just felt natural between us. Eventually, we decided to move in together. Though I noticed a few minor warning signs, like her frequent explosive fights with her parents over trivial things, I dismissed them. I figured every family had its ups and downs. At the time, it didn't seem like anything serious. After a while, I proposed, and everyone around us was thrilled. Both of our families immediately dove into full-blown wedding preparations, booking the venue, choosing flower arrangements, sending out invitations, you name it. Everything seemed to be on track until 2 weeks before the wedding. One evening, I came home from work and noticed this strange, almost guilty expression on her face. Curious, I asked her what was going on. That's when everything collapsed. She said we needed to have a serious discussion. I felt a wave of dread instantly. She then launched into a long explanation about how marriage was a massive commitment, how she feared missing out on experiences, and, the biggest bombshell of all, how she wanted us to have an open marriage. She talked about it as if it was the most logical, reasonable idea imaginable, almost like I should be thanking her for being so honest. I was completely blindsided. We were just days away from getting married, and now she was telling me she wanted to hook up with other men while still being my wife. I asked her if this was some kind of sick prank, but she was completely serious. She tried pitching it like it was a modern way to keep things exciting between us. I made it immediately clear that I wanted no part of it. She got defensive, accusing me of being old-fashioned and close-minded. She attempted to frame it like she was being considerate by bringing it up now, rather than blindsiding me after the wedding. But to me, it only proved that she had clearly been thinking about this for a long time and had chosen the absolute worst moment to drop it on me. We argued. That night I ended up sleeping in the spare bedroom, and for the next few days, we barely spoke, except for her dropping constant hints trying to sway me. She kept throwing out lines like, "Tons of couples do this," or, "You should be glad I'm not hiding it from you, and we can set clear boundaries so nobody gets hurt." No matter how she spun it, I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that she genuinely thought I'd ever agree to this. By the end of that miserable week, I knew without a doubt that I couldn't go through with the wedding. If I gave in, I would lose respect for myself. It became obvious to me that standing firm, even if it meant ending everything, was my only option, and I found peace with that decision. I sat my parents down and told them everything. My mom was devastated. My dad looked disappointed, but made it very clear that my happiness came first. They understood that we would lose a lot of money on all the non-refundable deposits, but they didn't care. My mom was heartbroken about all the time and effort wasted on planning, but she agreed it was far better to call things off now than to end up trapped in a doomed marriage. We decided we needed to sit down with her parents and explain everything. That meeting turned into a complete disaster. Her dad was pacing the room, furious and demanding answers. Her mom looked anxious, but wore a smug expression, like she had already bought into her daughter's side of the story. The moment I said, "I'm calling off the wedding because she asked for an open relationship," all hell broke loose. Her father exploded, shouting that I was blowing everything way out of proportion. Her mother jumped in, insisting that I just didn't understand modern relationships and was being closed-minded. My mom tried to keep things civil, calmly stating, "This isn't what our son signed up for," while my dad was more blunt, telling them outright that we weren't paying another cent toward the wedding. Her father even had the nerve to threaten to sue me for breach of promise or something equally ridiculous. My dad just laughed in his face, wishing him good luck with that. Meanwhile, my fiancée started sobbing, accusing me of humiliating her in front of everyone. She insisted that I was overreacting to something minor and that she was simply being honest about her needs. I told her plainly, her needs were ones I couldn't and wouldn't meet. I added that if she had realized this about herself earlier, she should have said something long before we invested so much money, time, and effort into a wedding. My parents and I walked out while her father was still yelling at her, blaming her for ruining everything. The next day, she texted asking if we could meet up privately. I agreed. During that conversation, she offered a weak apology for how everything had unfolded, but she stood firm on the idea that wanting an open marriage wasn't a big deal, and accused me again of being controlling and possessive. That was the final nail in the coffin for me. I told her I was completely done. I canceled every single vendor we had booked and started personally reaching out to guests to inform them that the wedding was off. It was utterly brutal having to explain everything. Most people politely asked why, and I gave them a softened version of the story. But my close friends heard the truth. She wanted an open relationship, and I wasn't willing to accept that. Her family went absolutely nuts. Her mother even started posting vague accusations on social media, implying that I was the one with unusual demands, and that her daughter had canceled the wedding to protect her dignity. I was beyond livid. Luckily, I had saved every text conversation. She had spelled everything out plainly, so I let one of our mutual friends leak screenshots in a group chat. Everyone was stunned when they saw that she had explicitly stated she wanted the freedom to sleep with other men while staying married to me. Her mother tried to claim I had violated her daughter's privacy, but at that point, I didn't care. They were actively lying about me, and I wasn't going to just sit back and take it. The fallout was a complete nightmare. I lost a ton of money on deposits I couldn't get back and had to endure the painful process of informing vendors that the wedding was canceled. After being off the grid for several days, my ex-fiancée reappeared by organizing a post-wedding brunch at a nearby country club, a thinly veiled attempt to host a sympathy event for herself. She brought in mutual friends and a few family members, seemingly desperate to salvage her public image. Once I caught wind of it, I decided to make an uninvited appearance. The moment I entered the venue, her mother rushed over and demanded I leave, but I refused. Raising my voice enough for everyone at the gathering to hear, I announced, "I know you're all here to support her, but you deserve the real story." I explained that just 2 weeks before the wedding, she had blindsided me with the idea of opening our relationship, and I had called off the entire thing because that wasn't what I had agreed to marry into. Her father immediately grew furious, accusing me of disrespecting their family. Calmly but firmly, I replied, "Your daughter and wife publicly lied about me. I'm here simply to tell the truth." My ex was visibly mortified, and I added that I had the evidence, text messages, available if anyone wanted to see for themselves. Without waiting for more drama, I turned and left. Not long after, several attendees reached out privately to apologize, admitting they had initially believed her side of the story. My dad told me he was proud that I stood my ground instead of letting them ruin my reputation. In the following weeks, I packed up my belongings, moved out of our shared place, and made sure my name was removed from the lease. Thankfully, we hadn't merged any finances, so at least that part was easy to disentangle. She made one last attempt to reach me through my best friend, trying to plant the idea that we could reconcile one day. He just laughed in her face and told her it would never happen. Even after that failed, she kept spreading her own version of events online. Her mother posted vague remarks about how some people just aren't ready for modern love. But once screenshots of our conversations started circulating, the truth became undeniable. Honestly, watching them scramble to do damage control was deeply satisfying. Eventually, they shut down their social media accounts, probably too embarrassed to keep facing the fallout. Even though I knew I had done the right thing, it still hurt to have to cancel a wedding so close to the date. I felt terrible for the guests who had already booked flights and hotel rooms. Some family members even showed up at the venue, only to find the place locked and empty. Later, a few relatives reached out via text, and I told them the whole story. It was an uncomfortable conversation, but once they understood the truth, they were supportive. I heard later that my ex moved to another state for a new job, which honestly felt like a blessing. Less chance of an awkward encounter around town. Since then, I've been pouring my energy into work, spending time with friends, and focusing on healing. My mom often reminds me how lucky I was to dodge a bullet, and my older brother agreed. He pointed out how much worse it would have been if she had sprung this after we were already married. Even imagining that possibility sends a chill down my spine. Although it was painful to watch the relationship implode, I'd rather go through that heartbreak now than be stuck in a marriage built on lies and resentment. The fact that she introduced such a major change just weeks before the wedding showed her entitlement. She must have assumed I would simply go along with it because everything was already planned. But I'm proud I didn't surrender to that pressure. Sure, I lost some time, money, and pride, but I saved myself from years of future misery. In hindsight, I wonder if the red flags were there all along. Unanswered calls during nights out, odd messages from male friends, and her defensive attitude whenever I asked simple questions. I chose to trust her, and that's on me. But now I know better. I've learned how essential it is to have the hard conversations early in a relationship, especially about core values like monogamy. If you're not aligned, you're only delaying the inevitable collapse. Some friends initially placed blame on me, suggesting maybe I wasn't adventurous enough or that I was too uptight. But once the receipts were made public, they backed off quickly. Look, I have no issue with people who choose open relationships if both partners are truly on board. The key word is consent. You can't just ambush your partner 2 weeks before a wedding and expect them to be fine with it. That's not open-mindedness. That's manipulation. The days right after calling everything off were a haze. Endless phone calls, chasing down deposits, and damage control as my ex tried to twist the narrative in her favor. My parents jumped in to help cancel vendors and handle logistics because I was completely drained. My dad kept reminding me to prioritize my well-being. Although my mom was upset about the financial losses, she never once pressured me to go through with the wedding just to avoid public embarrassment. She said, "This is your life, not a performance for everyone else." There were many sleepless nights, cycling through anger, grief, and confusion. But every time I revisited the situation in my mind, I knew beyond a doubt that walking away was the right choice. After all, she openly admitted she wanted the freedom to hook up with other people while being married to me. There's no sugarcoating that betrayal. If she had been upfront from the start, there would never have been an engagement. Instead, she waited until the last possible moment, gambling that the looming wedding would pressure me into accepting it. Her audacity still amazes me. Since then, I've been trying to focus more on the lessons learned than the losses suffered. I've come to trust my gut instincts. I've learned the importance of standing up for myself, even when it's uncomfortable and messy. Sure, telling people the wedding was canceled was mortifying, but pretending everything was fine would have been far worse. My siblings checked in with me constantly, making sure I wasn't isolated. My best friend told me, You just saved your future, man. That steady support kept me from falling apart completely. What really cut deep was how my ex and her mother tried to go on the offensive first, launching personal attacks online in an attempt to scare me into silence. But they badly underestimated how deeply hurt and how incredibly angry I was. There was no chance I was going to just sit by while they dragged my name through the mud. The moment those screenshots came to light, the web of lies my ex had been weaving completely unraveled. A few of her longtime friends, who had originally believed her version of events, got in touch to apologize for ever doubting me. That wave of vindication hit harder than I expected, and it felt incredible. But then came the notorious brunch, her final, flailing move to seize control of the story. Watching her parents recline comfortably, nursing their cocktails like they were the ones who'd been betrayed, was almost laughable. There was no way I was going to let them hijack the conversation and paint me as some domineering monster. Right then and there, I confronted them, not bothering to soften the truth. My ex didn't even attempt to step in. She just sat there, blankly staring at her food while her father stumbled over a weak attempt to shut me down. I stayed calm, laid it all out for everyone to hear. She wanted to keep our marriage intact while sleeping with other men on the side. I said no. It was that straightforward. Seeing the shock ripple across their faces was, in its own way, deeply satisfying. Time has passed since that day, and truthfully, I'm in a much better place now. I've been reconnecting with old friends, enjoying casual dates without any pressure to jump into anything serious. I'm not rushing back into a relationship. My mom keeps dropping little hints that someone better suited for me is out there. Maybe she's right. Either way, I'm just grateful I escaped a situation that would have slowly destroyed me. Losing a bit of money on canceled wedding plans seems like a small price to pay for the peace and future I gained by walking away. If you're reading this and going through something similar, if someone drops a life-shattering truth on you, listen to your instincts. If it feels wrong deep inside, don't stay, no matter how much it feels like your life is imploding. Plenty of people tried to convince me that canceling the wedding was a huge mistake. They told me to compromise. But tell me, how do you compromise on loyalty? There's no middle ground when it comes to trust. Once the shared values at the core of your relationship collapse, there's nothing left to salvage. Later, I heard my ex had moved away and found someone who shares her interest in open relationships. Good for them, genuinely. I'm just relieved I'm no longer caught up in that chaos. Part of me even wishes her well. Another part still harbors a bit of resentment for everything she put me through. But at the end of the day, I can stand tall, knowing I didn't betray myself. I refuse to be pressured by her or her family into living a life I couldn't respect. That's the whole story. It all happened not too long ago, but emotionally and mentally, I'm in a far healthier place. Right now, my energy is going into building my business, nurturing my friendships, and taking care of myself. Maybe one day, I'll be able to laugh about how narrowly I avoided marrying someone with such a radically different idea of commitment. At the moment, there's still a trace of bitterness. But mostly, I just feel grateful I uncovered the truth when I did. If you ever find yourself in a similar situation, don't let fear of embarrassment trap you. Stand your ground. You'll thank yourself later. I know I do. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you liked this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.